Hello and welcome to Logistics Plus Tech Summit, the first conference of its kind. Today we have three amazing speakers for you for the Field Service Executive Roundtable. I want them to introduce themselves rather than steal their thunder. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go through them one by one. Hari, if you could introduce yourself, your company, your background a little bit, and share with the attendees of field service attendees or otherwise where you are from in the United States. That would be wonderful. Over to you, Hari.
So thanks, Gaurav. I'm based out of New York City. Been here about the last 4 years. I used to live in LA before that. Have traveled extensively across North America, specifically with my jobs. And my first job out of school was working in the oil fields of northern Canada and then also in Gulf of Mexico. Post that, I went to business school and I've been at this company, W Energy, for the last 10 years. And we're really an operating system end to end for the energy value chain. And my current role is as Director of Product Management, specifically managing our joint suite of products, which is focused on a field-first production system.
Perfect. Welcome, Hari. It's wonderful to have you here. Let's go to Partha next. Partha Sarkar from Groundworks.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav. And nice to meet you, Hari. So I am Partha Sarkar, and I work as the Director of Software Development here at Groundworks. Our company is headquartered out of Virginia Beach, and our core business is in home services. So we primarily safeguard our customers against water, right, against their homes against water. And our core services include basement waterproofing, foundation repair, concrete leveling, crawl space repair, and we are also venturing into gutters. We are in the core field services industry, and the three pillars of our business are sales, service, and production.
Wonderful. Welcome, Partha, and great to have you here. And let me introduce our third panelist, Agni. Agni, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Gaurav. So my name is Agni Ananda. I live in the Bay Area. I work for a company called Apify, and we are also headquartered here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have spent the last 15 plus years focused primarily on B2B tech and its applications to field service technologies. Right now, I run customer success for Apify. We are a rapid application development platform that enables organizations to build very powerful business applications, web, mobile applications for employees, partners, and customers connected to existing data sources. My experience with field service is actually, over 10, 15 years now. Prior to Apify, I was a very early employee at ServiceMax where I worked across a number of the different business units, sales, solution development, as well as services across multiple industries like manufacturing, oil and gas, and services, developing solutions for these enterprises and being an early cloud adopter for field services. So I'm super happy to be here. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you and welcome, Agni. Let me ask you the first question of the roundtable. Field service organizations have changed a lot over the years, and I've worked with many of them. Can you please describe some of the key challenges and areas of improvement or opportunities for your organizations or your customers? I know that, Hari, you work with oil and gas customers. Agni, you work with a lot of field service customers. And Partha, you're directly working as an organization that provides amazing services for foundation repair and other services. So we'll start with Hari first, if you don't mind, Hari. Describe some of the challenges, how your field service organization has changed, what are the new challenges, what are the new opportunities in field services as you see them with your oil and gas customers?
Sure. I think what has significantly changed within the context of the energy industry overall is that the commodity itself is important, but data about the commodity has become even more important, right? And how that data is collected in the field is very dependent on how the economic the actual commodity is, right, to extract from the ground. A lot of the field service folks that we are engaged with, who are our customers, really have to go out in the field to do two main things. One, around managing the operations and making sure things are working perfectly fine. And then the second is around data collection. For us, what we've seen over the course of the years is, a lot of these data collection points were limited to just the production piece, but now they're actually increased to really involve a lot of different pieces, including safety, including things like extraneous preventative maintenance items, etc., etc. So there's a lot of data that has to be collected, and moving that from paper, which they were using previously, or laptops, there's been a big push towards mobility, towards digitization, making sure things are captured on the field at the time, and having that that real-time feedback loop in the field as well. I think this last piece that I'd like to talk about before I hand it over is really most field users, right, now have these expectations and tech dividends from their consumer life, right? So they see how easy it is to purchase something online, and then they want that same level of ease when they're working with the software in a business context. And I think that's a really big impetus for us, and really been our success story, is to be able to deliver that level of ease of use for the end user.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you, Hari, for that. Automation of data, being able to tap into data, avoiding data entry, and then ease of use. I call it the Uber, the Instacart, the DoorDash effect, right? That has spilled into every aspect of our life. So I see it personally myself. My daughter says the same thing when she sees an app. Why isn't this as easy at using one of those apps, right? So it's fantastic that W Energy is moving in that direction. Thank you, Hari. Let's go over to Partha, who actually, from Groundworks, he actually has a field service team of hundreds of people, and he can talk a little bit about what kind of experience he's seeing, what trends he's seeing as a part of his organization.
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. So, I would narrate a similar story to Hari's, right? It's not very different. When mobility and internet were at its infancy, right? Back in the days, the consumers would call a field service organization, and then it's a black box, right? You know that they're supposed to come over at this day during this time range, and you're in there, you're waiting. You might have to take some time off, and they might not end up showing. So these were things of the past, right? But now today is the day of information explosion, right? So everybody has this supercomputer at their hands, and they want to be kept updated all the time, right? So that increases a lot of pressure on companies like us who provide, or strive to provide quality service to our consumers, right? So I think this is how the expectation of the customers has changed. They want to be kept updated at all times with real-time information, and at the same time, if you think about it, this is really an opportunity as well, right? To impress your consumers by delivering that information on a timely manner, by showing up at their job at the right time that you provided to them.
Perfect. Thank you, Partha. Consumer expectations play big into all of this. Let's go on over to Agni to see what he's seeing with Appify in terms of field service changes over the last decade or so.
Yeah, in talking to customers over the last few years, I mean, you're right. Field service organizations are changing because our world is changing. The way we live, the way we interact with people, the way we work, and the way we do business. I've literally seen customers open up new lines of business unit, new industries, new jobs, and that's going to continue to change. So one of the challenges that I see is for these organizations to continue to adapt to these ever-changing environments, right? To make the technology work for them versus, business having to work for technology. And echo a little bit of what Hari and Partha have said, which is as a consumer, we have all this amazing tech at our fingertips, right? Customer service, cars, even pizza delivered in a few clicks. Yet business always tends to lag a little bit behind when providing these experiences, right? To both their customers and their employees. And I read somewhere that 80% of B2B buyers now expect a purchase experience similar to that of B2C, right? So that's one of the challenges that we're seeing there. The other one is, especially in the world of field service, as was mentioned here, customers now expect real-time on-demand updates on the status of their service requests. Customer experience is the key. So the need to have that increase in transparency and communication between field service organizations and their customer. And it is, literally 74% from what I've heard and seen of customers are likely to buy a product just based on favorable customer experience. And then finally, just to kind of end this little segment of it is very interestingly, especially the last year or so, what with COVID and how people are changing the way they work, we're seeing companies have labor force shortages and shifting as the next generation of folks have less interest in a field service type of work that's traditional. So we're starting to see this explosion of what we call the gig economy. I was recently talking to a customer in the telco space where they mentioned some of the challenges they have with recruiting and hiring these, this labor force. So fortunately though, field service, hotbed of technological innovation. It's one of the few industries that I know that's constantly looking for ways to be on the forefront of technology. So from an area of improvement, delivering a great experience with a digital footprint has a direct impact on the bottom line, top line, customer sat, retention, and brand. It's important to talk about that. And so there's different ways in which we try to deliver that experience at Apify, which we've seen. One of them, what we talk about is called the last mile experience, right? And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more in subsequent conversations.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, Wayne. Agni, let's start with Partha this time for the next question. And the question is about what role is logistics technology playing on improving the performance, productivity, and reliability? And what metrics are you using? And describe to us a few scenarios, right, on how Groundworks is actually using logistics technology, logistics APIs in the field to improve the field service performance, productivity, and reliability.
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. So, to start describing the solution that we put in place, let's go over the problem, right? So our CEO is very passionate about providing the best quality service to our consumers, and one of the problems he wanted to solve for our consumers was accountability, right? How are our teams accountable to them, right? Are they showing up at the correct time? Are they following the exact behaviors that they are expected to, right, with the consumers? So to solve this, we came up with what we call On My Way feature in our mobile app. And what this is a very, we talked about Uber a little bit earlier, right? This is a very Uber DoorDash-like feature, right? So the use cases, our CFIs, which is our certified field inspectors, they have a scheduler app that they can look at all of their appointments for the day. And when they're ready, to drive to their next appointment, they would click a button and send a automated text to our consumers, our customers, which they receive on the phone with the live location of our field inspectors, right? So there's no, I guess this is a very transparent process, right? The customer knows exactly when to expect the inspector. If for some reason they are out of the home or nearby, they can drive back, or so it helps both our field service provider and also the customer. This is our biggest use case, but at the same time we are getting a lot of good data out of this, which we are analyzing. And I think one of the biggest benefits that you get out of something like this is, hey, what are the patterns of successful field service? What are the patterns of successful customer service? What are the patterns of successful field inspector? What are the patterns of successful customer service? What are the patterns of successful field service providers, right? Like the employees who are getting success, what patterns are they following, and how can we coach our underperforming, employees, and help enforce some of this coaching on them so they can be successful as well.
That's fantastic, Partha. Let me ask you a follow-on question. I remember that Groundworks, in addition to using that notification of on my way, you're also using that when or looking at using that when somebody leaves the location of the customer to prompt them for the service. You want to talk a little bit about that and what technology is in play there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we dive deeper into our use case, once the CFI, so we use something that Hypertrack provides, the geofence, right? And this is a great feature. I think we have customized it to a big circle, which is almost a football field wide right now, just because some of the weird driving patterns of some of our employees on roads. But anyhow, so when our inspectors enter this geofence, we trigger what is called a knock-knock message first, right? So the inspectors at the door, we would send a follow-up message to our customers saying, hey, knock, knock, the inspector's right there, expect him within a minute or two. Then the inspector spends some time with our customers at their home, inspecting their problems, hopefully, and suggesting proper solutions to those problems. And when they leave that geofence, we trigger an NPS, right? This was an extremely important part for us because we always want to know how we performed during our inspections, during our installations, during our service. So we are very, geared towards sending NPS. But what we were seeing was that the customers typically do not fill them out, or the fill rate was not high enough. And that's where we tied this to the geofence exit events. And we did see an increase, a good bit of increase in the fill rate of the NPS surveys from the customers.
That's incredible. Thank you, Partha. This is something that people struggle with all the time. How do you get the Net Promoter surveys or NPS surveys filled out? And this is a fantastic solution. Kudos on that. From now, the certified field inspectors in Groundworks that are looking at people's foundation repair, let me go head on over to Hari in the oil and gas fields. And if you could paint a picture for us on how the logistic technology is used at your end, Hari, that'll be fantastic with W Energy software.
Absolutely. I think let me start with the outcome that we're trying to drive, right? No pun intended. We're looking to make sure that the field user has to spend as little time on the application as much as possible, right? So their main and core job is to be out in the field, fixing things on the well, fixing things on the tank, looking at things, making sure everything is safe. So we want to reduce the amount of time that they spend in the field on their mobile app, right? So what we've done with the logistics technology that Hypertrack has really innovated on is allowing, similar to what Partha was saying, having a geofence at each of these different sites in the oil field, and then as a user enters that site, we're able to trigger and say, hey, this user visited this site, and now they don't need to visit it for another 7 days, right? Or hey, they spent an hour, 2 hours at this site fixing an issue that probably if we had matched them with somebody who had a skill set of doing that better, they could have fixed it much sooner. So where are some of the time being spent in the field? Where are some of these efficiencies that we can drive for the user not having to use the application? And then the third thing is really around a roadmap item. I talk about it a lot internally with respect to safety, right? I know one of our customers during COVID wanted to make sure that the field service users were not actually coming too close to each other, and they were using some of this piece to say, hey, are they standing right next to each other, or their trucks standing right next to each other or not? They kind of use some of that data to say, hey, are they following guidelines in terms of the COVID restrictions, right? So similarly, I think there are other safety issues out in the oil field. It's a dangerous job. And really, if somebody is at a site for 8 hours, 10 hours, you want to be making sure, hey, what happened? So those are some of the roadmap items also we're thinking out with the logistics software we have from Hypertrack. So
that's perfect, Hari. And if we were to tie it back to you, the first thing that you mentioned is automation and data related automation. Before the automated geofence pairs check-in or check-out, you would require the user to actually manually select something on the app, right? When they're checking.
Absolutely. So our previous version of this piece, what we call pump by exception, our previous version of it involved the user actually having to go in and tick within the application a certain attribute and say, hey, yeah, I visited this field. But if they are visiting, like if they're just going through a field and they need to just spend 30 seconds in there, if I add 30 more seconds for them to enter this data on every site, that adds up minutes, and across thousands of users, that's a lot of lost productivity.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. And pump by exception, it was something that was caught by ear. It's like, that's a very specific term for your industry. But can you explain that a little bit more before we go to Agni for what?
For sure. So how we enable pump by exception really is we allow customers to define their operational algorithms and rules that they want to apply for productivity and efficiency in their field. And once they apply those rules, the last mile delivery of that on the mobile app allows them to really get a list of their prioritized tasks for that day, prioritized events for that day. And they're then able to say, hey, I need to actually visit this well or this site, or I need to do a certain safety check on certain things. And what it allows us to, what Hypertrack and logistics allows us to do is kind of help us route some of the users as well in the most efficient manner. I think one other big thing as we move forward towards net zero for a lot of companies that have endorsed that goal is, hey, how much am I driving in a field? How much carbon am I emitting while doing all the driving? So those are some of the pieces that I think companies are looking at in the near future as well. So a lot of interesting things with the logistics technology that we have.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hari. And over to Agni to understand how he's using logistics technology in Appify.
Yeah, so what we've seen in our customers, the role of logistics for improving performance has primarily been around, the proof of provenance, including traceability. It's an important area for a lot of our customers, and tracing not just people, but things as well. So I have an example. I've got a customer that we built on top of Hypertrack's technology, where they wanted to be able to track their technicians' movements throughout the day. So it wasn't just, I am starting my job or I'm now on to the next customer, but literally from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m., what they call the breadcrumbs of the tech. Part of this was driven by, what they were seeing on the field, which is our techs are doing maybe 2 jobs a day, 3 jobs. Are they driving? How are they actually spending their time, right? We layered this technology on top for one of our customers, and they've got this amazing map now where they can see, from the time a tech says, yep, I've started my day, of course, obviously excluding, personal time off that they might take in between, this customer is able to map how a tech spends their day, where there are inefficiencies in that, within that route, how they can then use that to improve the route optimization, because for them, more jobs, ultimately equals, more revenue. You multiply that up by the number of techs in the organization. So it's been a very nice way for them to be able to look at, baseline, at least, how they're doing as far as, their jobs on the field. That's one. And then another interesting part of it was for being transparent with your customers. We had another customer in sort of just the pure services play space, where they would go out and repair printers and other kinds of technology, where literally they're, when a tech got onto site, a lot of times they wouldn't have, the service managers would not be on site. And so they would complete the work, come back, and they'd be billing issues afterwards. No, you were not there for 1 hour. I think you were there for 2. and then you're spending more time auditing, the technicians' movements and actually getting this thing done, right? So by implementing technology like this, there's traceability across the board, not just for the company, but it has also been, pretty important from a customer perspective. So, and this customer has seen improvements in billing. That's the most important thing, but not just tracking for the sake of reliability and route efficiency, but also to ensure that there's, there's less arguments over, how the final bill was produced, right? So things like that, and we're continuing to. We do engage with a lot of upper mid-market customers, and for them to have this instant, on my way type of capability without having to put a big technology stack behind it is, I think, key to driving, their, customer satisfaction within their customers as well. So yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Agni. And that's a very different use case and a perspective than the ones we're looking at. Day in the life of improve the productivity with that, and then traceability, and then ability to have billing without disputes. I mean, that's, everybody can cheers to that. Now I'm going to ask you guys the final question, and we'll start with Hari this time. Hari, there are about 1,000, close to 1,500 people who are tuning in for this, either live or on demand. What advice do you have for them as they are building their own logistic tech, right? What kind of benefits should you expect, what you have seen, and what is your advice for them in terms of getting started with logistics APIs?
I think really the age-old adage, especially in field service, is very, very apt. Location, right? It really, a lot of context-driven things can happen when you're able to integrate some of these logistic pieces into your application, right? In terms of being able to say, hey, how much time did they spend on certain things? How do you drive productivity? Make sure your route efficiencies are high. So I think in my mind, as long as you're able to clearly define what problem you're trying to solve for your customer and your end user, and it involves you having some contextual location and or geofence hits, I think it really makes sense to kind of look at the logistics technology behind it, right? And make sure you're picking what you need, and it's the right technology for you. And I think, to echo what Agni said earlier, technology not for technology's sake, but for actually solving a real problem. Right?
That's fantastic. Partha, over to you. What kind of benefit have you already seen with logistic tech? You mentioned it as a part of your segment. If you want to summarize that and then kind of provide an advice for people who want to get similar benefits out of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage, right, is like I would like to say it with the law of no surprises, right? It's like one of the key factors, right, when you're growing a company is customer satisfaction and being part of this company that has grown rapidly. I know this very well, right? And one of the biggest challenges to customer satisfaction is getting that, making sure your processes are homogeneous, right? Like whether you have a branch in LA or Virginia, right? The same sort of customer satisfaction, the same sort of delivery to the customer, right? Has to be, rinsed and repeated again and again. And I think, technology like HybridTrack absolutely allows you to trace that, right? And there's no surprise anymore. You understand whether your field, for field service team are doing exactly what's expected or not, right? And then if there are, any exceptions, then we can understand why those exceptions are happening and how we can make that better. I think is the biggest advantage.
Wonderful. And anybody who is getting started, any particular area that you'd recommend them getting started first?
Again, to Hari's point, right? I think it depends on the business, right? You need to understand your business first, and then find opportunities of how you can add data to that business process to help make things more quantifiable, right? For example, for us, we have always scheduled 90 minutes for customer inspections, and with this, with data from SDKs like Hypertrack, we can really understand if 90 is really optimal or not, right? So things like these we can definitely improve if we have data.
Fantastic. Thank you, Partha, and thank you for joining the roundtable. Agni, you have the last word. Benefits from the tech at a summary level, and then what do you recommend people getting started with? About 1,500 or so people who are joining us at Logistic Tech Summit.
Right. I'll echo it because I think both Partha and Hari have said most of it, which is for us, logistics tech and what we're seeing with our customers is all about improving the customers' experience at the end of the day, right? Increasing visibility, reducing costs, faster delivery, faster response time, improving efficiency, even having new product offerings or even business opportunities make this worthwhile. Also, automation, real-time visibility frees a lot of dispatchers and support staff from unnecessary busy work, right? You're seeing some of this stuff play out in real time, and a lot of these performance insights will help executives of the companies make better business decisions at the end of the day. So that's and we're seeing that, as I think I mentioned with the once we took away the time it took to build the technology and just deployed it and put it in action, we got to see companies instantly reduce their billing disputes in half, and optimize the routes that their techs were able to take, even reorganize and reshuffle some of the service regions, things like that, and ultimately improve their CSAT and their NPS, because there is again, I come back to this, which is at the end of the day, a lot of businesses will compete primarily on the basis of customer experience, and it's a deciding factor for all of the consumers, right? Whether it's B2B, B2C, that's where this goes. And what was your last question again, Gord? I forgot.
Any advice for people to get started with on a particular area that you should get started on?
I think, so there's a lot of different places to go to. I would say just for us, it's always we're focusing on the business problem. There's a lot of new shiny technology out there, right? And it's easy to get caught up in it and try to explore use cases for it. One of the things I like to say is identify the business problem, find the business issue, and then understand how you can get smarter with the technology and find relentlessly find ways in which you can use that technology to impact the bottom line of your business and top line as well. One of the things that we're looking to do, combining logistics tech, is we're looking at different AI, ML type of capabilities, augmented reality, to further improve that customer experience and provide more engaging technology. So new ways to interact with the customer, new ways to enhance with the tech, all throughout this logistics chain, right? So start small, at least implement one thing and then keep sort of adding to it. Is the only kind of advice I can give.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Hari, Partha, and Agni for joining us. It's a fantastic roundtable. Now we're going to open it up for Q&A. Q&A is by chat, so you'll be able to place your questions for Hari, Partha, or Agni, or all three of them, and they'll answer by chat next on the portal. Thank you, and thank you for spending time with us. Bye.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks.